Really? I used to play for one of the best teams in the UK National Basketball League. And we thought we were pretty hot stuff. We were going to Great Britain trials, and we were going to go to the Olympics. And then a visiting American high school came through. It'd be about 1986, 87, and they were there for a cultural trip. But their coach said to our coach, "Hey, I got some kids who play basketball from the high school. Would you mind if they came to play you?" And we went, yeah, sure, yeah. They beat us so badly. They humiliated us to such an extent. And then I found out that wasn't even their starting five.
Yes. Oh, God, the height thing. We're going to get right into that as well.
Where's he going?
Give it up for Richard Ashton, guys. He's we've got a lot to talk about, and I want to bring up, actually, I'm really excited to talk about a new film that's out. Well, we're going to talk about last, actually, which we're going to educate everybody about because it's out there now. It just premiered in May, and we're really excited. It's actually, it's a lot of fun, so we're going to talk about it. But that'll be last. We're going to start off early days with Richard. Oh, my God. Bitten by the bug. You started out in BBC, working for BBC Radio.
I did, before I went to university. The BBC, in those days, was like an extension of government. You felt like you were working for the civil service. So the corridors were full of people who you really didn't know what they did, but they'd walk around with a clipboard and a suit and look important and all those things. And my job title on my wage slip was Radio Training Handyman. Now, a handyman is a real job, apparently. What it means is that in the whole of BBC Radio, anything anybody else doesn't want to do goes to the handyman. So I had a little desk. Originally in the Langham, which was a hotel up until, I guess, about the 1920s. So my office was actually one of the tiniest bedrooms at the top of the hotel. So I had a desk, a telephone, but the desk was in front of a Victorian cast iron fireplace that had been painted over. None of the management ever came up there. But I was the handyman. I did anything you care to name. Moving equipment around, directing things. We ran training sessions also for BBC Worldwide. So if the instructors wanted to go for lunch, and had a session in the afternoon, portable recorders for Nigerian broadcasting, for instance, that would be me. You know, these people have flown from all over the world and they've paid lots of money to be trained by the BBC, and then a 17-year-old me stands up. But having said that, it was a portable recorder, which I'm seeing a lot of people were familiar with in the old days with, quarter-inch tape on 2 reels, microphone. It's surprising that how many people who are now senior producers at the BBC could not operate these machines. As in
3/4 inch?
Plug in the microphone, make sure it works, point it in the right direction. But they're all out there now, and they're all gods, and I'm not a handyman anymore because our department, as the BBC changed, went from about 15 people to 3 people to 1 person to a cupboard. And I believe somewhere in Grafton House, because it moved and moved, and Grafton House is just opposite Regent's Park. In fact, Grafton House is just up the road from the Sherlock Holmes Museum on Baker Street. But in there somewhere is a grey metal cabinet, which is the radio training department, which is a bit of a shame because we don't train people anymore. But that was great, and I thought I'd go into radio. I mean, that's really where I'd still like to be because you get to sit down and have cups of tea. But it's taken a little while to get back there. And
then when did the acting, when were you when did you know that this is what I want to do and this is what I want to pursue, and then eventually make a living out of doing? What did it to you?
That's a really good question. At school, I was okay at most things. Thought I was going to be a scientist. Did all the early special exams in maths and physics and discovered I wasn't going to be a scientist.
Was your height had anything to do with any extracurricular, like sports? With your height, I would imagine, or did that?
Well, when you're 6'2", when you're 12, high school coaches look at you and go, "Oh, great, you're on the track team. Oh, great, you're in the basketball team. Oh, great, you're in the rugby team. Oh, great, you're in the football team." Yeah, there should have been some sort of employment legislation for the under-16s, I think. It's child labour. But no, I did all of those things. And the UK has a national basketball league, right? Really? I used to play for one of the best teams in the UK National Basketball League. And we thought we were pretty hot stuff. We were going to Great Britain trials, and we were going to go to the Olympics. And then a visiting American high school came through. It'd be about 1986, 87. And they were there for a cultural trip. But their coach said to our coach, hey, I got some kids who play basketball from the high school. Would you mind if they came to play you? And we went, yeah, sure, yeah. They beat us so badly. They humiliated us to such an extent. And then I found out that wasn't even their starting five. I say this for anybody who's feeling the pain from Women's World Cup soccer right now. Yeah, you will still kick our asses at basketball until the end of time.
Were you any good?
Not really. Rugby player, see? Get a rugby player of a certain size, and he looks like he can play basketball. But I was really playing rugby, I think. Yeah. That was hopeless.
Yeah, rugby is like anyone who plays rugby has it over on American football players because they do everything an American football player will do without padding. You know.
Well, that is true, but this is a big debate right now, isn't it, about head injury in professional sport? And I have a funny feeling that if you get a guy who's 380 pounds and get him to run the 100 yards in 12 seconds and then put a helmet on him, well, that makes him rhinoceros. That makes him rhino. This is dangerous. And I suspect that they get more injury because of the padding than if they played without. Maybe somebody has to have a look at football and change the configuration. Well, because we're having to do it in rugby, because too many people are getting neck injuries, and I myself don't have a especially flexible neck because of that. But I'm okay now. But also, we're stopping heading. You can't. You eventually, you're not going to be able to do headers in soccer because too many people are having those injuries.
You know, now with acting, though, your first gig was Keeping Up Appearances. Talk about, well, yeah.
Hey, Patricia. Can I just say Patricia Routledge? Let me just say that again. Patricia Routledge. And I love the fact that her career, in many ways, mirrored Angela Lansbury, because most people don't know that both of them were very young, beautiful, attractive, triple threat actor, singer, dancers, had huge careers on Broadway and in the West End, then went into TV sitcom, then went into, detective shows like Hetty Winthrop Investigates or Murder, She Wrote. And also a regal. She was regal. We were on location shooting Keeping Appearances. She got on the bus, all travelling together, walked along the bus. And it was like the Queen Mother got on. And we all kind of went, yes, ma'am. But she was delightful, absolutely delightful. And how do I put this? A script which was rather obvious and a bit thin. She breathed it out. You believe Hyacinth Bouquet really exists. And Clive Swift, who played her husband Richard, who's no longer with us, again, breathed life into it. So for a kid, I'd done lots of children's theatre at that point, it was an acting university just to stand on set with them and watch them kind of shape the line and move the line, keep the scene moving forward. But then I realize now, also give the editor places to cut, give some shape to it. Because you can't just blurtle it all out, because then you end up with a soup that no one can make anything out of. She's the real deal.
Now, we'll let on to other parts, but obviously we're at a science fiction convention. We're going to dive into some of the genre parts that you started out doing. Now, before a certain film by a certain French director came your way, you did do there was some dabbling in some science fiction with Space Precinct.
Space Precinct.
Talk about Space Precinct.
Jerry Anderson fans?
Jerry
oh
Anderson.
God,
There's
says
got to be, right there.
You tell me about Space Precinct. But this was the beginning of animatronic suits, wasn't it? Yes. And a noble pursuit to try and make everything real, everything physical. But there are several quite famous actors who, after the first day in the helmets with the revolving eyes, put them down and walked home. And I'd gone in as quite a minor sort of slight prosthetic, strange Russian accent for some reason, because Russians are aliens, right? Okay, whatever. And they said, "Oh, would you stay? We have a lot of monsters and things we need to do." But in actual fact, I was contracted, so I didn't. But I did get to meet the great man himself, which was astonishing. He was everything you imagine, sort of urbane, pleasant, charming. And that thing I used to associate with that generation of British filmmakers, never really got upset, never really was impolite to anybody, because they had all the homework going on here. The shame is I never got to make Sylvia, because in Thunderbird's sense, she was just as much a creative force in all of those shows as he was, but unfortunately that wasn't possible. So yeah, I mean, Space Precinct, it's out there. But in that scene, which we probably don't remember the episode, but there was the queen, if you like, that I have come to rescue. Everybody in the Terran sort of world thinks is a bag lady. Well, she's not a bag lady, she's our queen, and we go and rescue her. That was a woman called Mattilock Gibbs, and if you do your Googling, at the time I didn't know, again, royalty, a beautiful actor, so very, very lucky to be asked to do that.
Well, I mean, for your first sci-fi outing, to do a Jerry Anderson project, not too shabby. But then I did mention a certain film had dropped into your lap, and that would be The Fifth Element. I'm sure we have some Fifth Element fans. And
Hey!
Aziz Lights,
Oh, more light, Aziz, more light.
More light, Aziz. Talk about that. And
time is not important. Only life is important.
And Gary Oldman as Zorn the villain, and it's such a wonderful piece. And talk about just getting involved with that and being on a set with the likes of Luc Besson and Gary Oldman.
Well, here's
and of
the funny
course, Bruce
thing.
Willis.
That was the biggest French-funded movie to date. It occupied all of Pinewood Studios, so no one else could get in there for the entire time of the shoot. But they kind of put an apartheid in there. We were in the creature effects department, and we literally had our own security. We weren't allowed, well, no one else was allowed in, but we weren't allowed out. So for 7 weeks, we trained and we worked on the suits, and we got things to work, and that was okay. But we never saw the rest of the movie. I think I managed to sneak out to see the bit where Lee Evans does the sort of Norman Wisdom comedy thing through the doorway and all that kind of malarkey. And that was about it. So we were like caged animals. There were 7 of us, of which I was the sort of median body shape. But all of those Mondos are based on a life cast, which was me. And so my Mondo, which, now this is sad, isn't it? I know which one my Mondo was. Yeah. I'm actually the one just over his right shoulder.
Well,
yeah,
and, we can tell. I mean, we can tell probably by your swagger, that distinct Ashton swagger.
No, actually,
that it's
this is nerddom, because it's the colour of the index light on one of the spikes. The other spike actually has the camera in that we could see through. So we had an LCD screen in front of our eyes like that, but what it's showing us is a view from here. Not the best way of steering a costume that weighs 350 pounds and is articulated at the knee.
How do you hit your mark?
I think it's called back up till you hit something. The sequence where they walk across the bridge, with the illuminated circles into the Mondo spaceship, that was actually a bridge. We were as high as this room is. I'm not entirely sure why, but one of the guys did walk one of the suits off the bridge. Yeah, he didn't come back. I think partly because he was injured, and part because he just destroyed a £75,000 costume, and it was a bit difficult. But we got through that. As I say, 7 weeks training, no filming. every day, go to work out, work the suit, no shoot. And then I got an audition. Pinewood exists in a forest, northwest of London. To get to London, you've got to walk through a housing estate, catch a bus, get the bus to a tube station, get the tubes into town. And I played truant from that set twice on 2 separate days to go audition. All the while thinking, if they call for me, I'm dead. This is the biggest French movie ever. If they decide finally we're going to shoot Mondos, and one of the Mondos is missing, so I'd go all the way in, do my audition. Thank you very much indeed. Yes, oh, thank you. No, I've got to go now. Get back on. Walk through the housing estate, back into the creature effects department. No, you're right, Rich. No, we've just been sat about, really. Oh, okay, fine. And then they said, well, you haven't filmed. We have the right to extend your contract by another 10 weeks. Ooh. Can you let me out of that clause? I promise to do every single bit of filming that you offer me, but I really don't want to be under contract for 10 weeks. And she was, yeah, okay, fine. We wrapped my bit of Fifth Element on a Thursday, and on Monday I started the New Adventures of Robin Hood in Lithuania because they'd released me, which was very generous of them actually, because I think these days people wouldn't. But then they were trying to manage a massive film production. I think, as I say, this is why these days they tend to go, no, you're on contract, you're staying where you are, even if you sit there and do nothing. But it just once, it worked out. And I got to go to Lithuania, which was great.
And you had Ian Holm. Sir Ian Holm was in that scene. Did you have any interactions with that?
Do you know what? On the Fifth Element, I didn't, but we'd already done a TV show called The Common Pursuit, in which I played... Rufus Sewell was a young student at Cambridge University, and Ian Holm was his tutor. I was one of Rufus's sort of classmates. Oh, all right. And we spent an entire 2 days running up and down one of those... You've seen... The colleges in Cambridge and Oxford. Looks like Harry Potter, right? Because, yeah, these funny little staircases, and we spent 2 days running up and down. And at the top of it, Rufus Sewell would arrive, Ian Holm came out and just gave us the hairdryer treatment. You know, this man has such a phenomenal voice. And after 2 days, he still had a phenomenal voice. Very impressive, very interesting. I have a tiny part in that show, but it was nice to be this close to someone who was really kind of, a hero, I guess.
And when you did the Mondos, you're encased in a suit. Was that the first time you had done that kind of body actor, like the monster character actor?
On film, yes. Yeah. But in the theatre, I'd done lots of it. Very, very... I did a thing... You remember the Monty Python film, Eric the Viking? Yeah. Well, that actually comes from a series of stories in a book for children by Terry Jones. Mm-hmm. We did a stage version of that, in which I played a giant, a Viking, of course, Death in a huge sort of all-encompassing costume, a dog fighter, in which I had a very close-fitting prosthetic head with an articulated jaw, and probably something else. It was usually I end up on stilts, completely covered up in those days, and I loved it. I thought it was great. Because I was a puppeteer before I ever got let loose on the stage, because I managed to get a job with the Norwich Puppet Theatre in the late 1980s. And that's what this is. In some ways, it's what a lot of that work is. It's a liberation as opposed to being a limitation. Because I'm not restricted by this. I am to a certain extent by my body, but I can now have a puppet that talks and animates, and I can be involved in that, and I can make choices for that puppet. I couldn't make choice for myself because it wouldn't be credible. I love that. Wow. I love giving life to inanimate things. The range of movement in the Mondo is so phenomenally small, but nonetheless, you have to imbue it, because the heads are an animatronic operated by an operator. The arms are one of those sort of clutch devices, so the hand is a good 18 inches beyond your hand. But nonetheless, you've got to animate it. And you can always spot in a movie if someone's lost the plot or they're not particularly committed because you go,
engaged.
Who's that? What's he doing? What's she doing? That looks terrible. And they've killed the puppet, you know. And our job is to bring life to it, whether it's our face or it's something like that.
Audience are keen. They'll pick up on that. It'll take them right out of the movie if they don't feel like any performer is engaged. Now, I was lucky enough early this past year to interview Mr. Doug Jones.
Oh, yeah.
And Doug was very keen on saying, of course, when you do this kind of restrictive work, creature work or monster work or any, the first rule is to never complain.
Oh, absolutely.
Was that something would you also say is like key to any longevity in that field?
It's an inside-outside sort of thing. And I think it's like anything. If you start getting involved in how much it hurts and how hot you are and how much of a pain in the arse it is, literally, you're now outside. You have lost your focus. It's going to hurt more. And typically, in any of those suits, when I'm not required to do anything, I just come all the way in. And particularly if there's any breathing restriction. It's like when you're having a life cast, you know, that could be quite scary. But if you can come inside, just go, all I have to do is breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. I'm fine. And I'm aided, unfortunately, by having worked with two performers. One actually on Doctor Who, one a long time ago on New Adventures of Robin Hood, who were in a constricted, enclosed facial thing, and they basically had a panic attack, proper panic attack. Nothing they could do about it. Not a question of being weak or anything like that. Just simply that automatic system takes over, then they go into chaotic breathing. It can be quite dangerous. And so you have to cut them out of the suit and send them home and say, thanks very much. Don't come back. Because we can't have that on set. But again, it's not a question of blame. It will touch wood. Never had a panic attack. Can't imagine what it's like. But what you do is suck it in. There's a brilliant photo on, Face, Inter, Tick, Book, Talk, thing, whatever it is. And it's the lady who played the robot Maria in Metropolis, the Fritz Lang film. You know the film we're talking about?
Fritz Lang, yeah.
So there she is. And she must be tiny because she's in this skinny Maria robot costume. The head's off. And they are blowing with an old-fashioned curly-whirly hairdryer cold air into the suit, and she's drinking on a thing. And the look on that woman's face is just, I am not here. I am not here. I am not here. And that's what you have to do.
Just got to keep reassuring yourself you'll get through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, say the suit for the Mondos in Fifth Element, comparatively to another suit you might have worn in a science fiction show. Talk about I guess the hindrances of playing an ice warrior when you did Friday for the Empress of Mars.
Well, I hadn't done anything like what you're talking about for nearly 25 years. And then my agent said, they want to go and see you. It's Doctor Who. I went, okay, I'll do it. No, Richard, you haven't done the audition yet. Oh, sorry. Okay, right, fine.
You were a fan growing up and just all over it. And
what?
Was an ice warrior.
I was born in 1965.
Well, there you go. Now,
grew up with Doctor Who.
We were, anyway. But so growing up, what were your favorite Doctor? Who was your Doctor growing up? Was it?
Kind of interesting, actually. And before all that unpleasantness with diseases, I was at a convention and everyone was a little bit discomforted by Jodie. And I said, okay, well, let me tell you, when I was a child and Doctor Who changed, and I was heartbroken. It was like somebody had just taken the lid off reality. And John Pertwee was gone. And they'd replaced him with this curly-haired, beaky bloke. And that was Tom. Oh. Do you know what? I think it was a really formative experience about change and about one's attitude and one's preferences. Oh, I like that. I don't like that. Whatever. Oh, wow. Wow, can you be wrong? Wow, can you be so wrong? And I think a lot of us embrace Tom because he he feels like all of British theatre and cinema and film in one moment. Even his first episode, where he dresses up as Mrs. Mop and there's a bit of song and dance in there, he's in a pantomime. He is that performer. Now, he was already famous, you know, for us. When I'm flipping around here, sorry. Obviously, I'm talking about John Pertwee. He was famous for us, whereas when Tom Baker arrived, we'd never heard of him. He was working on a building site, as we know, I think quite famously. And so there was this, oh, who are you? And then, of course, we came to realise that he was very much a part of the British kind of structure of film, theatre and telly, as ever John Pertwee was. And now I think we all know it's rather hard to imagine a world without him, which hopefully we'll never have to do.
Yeah. I like when people aren't so much, they're not haters. Don't hate Daniel Craig as James Bond until you see Daniel Craig as James Bond, or hate Ben Affleck as Batman until you see, you know what I'm saying? I always like to wait. And yeah, obviously Tom Baker did that for you, I would imagine. But monster-wise, did you have any, as a fan, were there any monsters that you really loved? Or were there always like, I mean, in a perfect world, everyone in this room would love you to say, oh, you always loved the Ice Warriors from back when. It was always your favorite.
It was, okay, can I say this? The Ice Warriors were quite an uncomfortable monster when I was a kid, because the suits were the way they were, and the hands were kind of fixed. And particularly the Ice Warrior incarnation, which has the very big head, is like, oh, that looks like before Barbie, that looks like a Cindy doll, a doll with their outsides. I think, oh, not sure about that. Not sure about the Ice Warriors. Don't know. And then I discovered that Bernard Bresslaw was one of the early Ice Warriors. And then that was it. As a 6'7" actor, who most of his career was asked to play idiots. And was such an intelligent man. He used to do a children's book program on telly called The Book Tower. Oh my God, this guy's, he's wonderful. And yet he plays this. So when they said Ice Warrior to me, I went, yes. And then the director even said to me, you understand that, we'll see your mouth and it won't even be your mouth. I don't care. If Bernard Bresslaw can do it, I can do it. If he will do that, I will most certainly subject myself to that. And then I was relieved to find out that it was going to be my voice, which is the bit of ego that exists in that. But it is nice because you feel you can put a little bit more character into it. But that is not to say if people play a character and it isn't their voice, they're not all, go tell Dave Prowse he wasn't Darth Vader. Yeah, good luck with that. Brilliant. So I think yeah, like what's there.
They're like, well, you're going to play an Ice Warrior. We're going to make sure that, we're going to see your mouth, but your sight will, of course, when you're in a suit like that, your vision is going to be hindered. But, oh, by the way, we're going to take out an eye on top of that.
Yeah. Well, their desire was to make something which physically looked real and reminded us of classic Who. So even down to the material the suit was made from, it's a kind of bonded thermoset. So once it's set, you can't do anything with it. You can barely cut it, drill it, and thread it. It's kind of inflexible. Same deal on the eye sort of lenses, if you like. And they were triple lenses because they wanted this lustrous depth. And I went, guys, I can't see a thing. We're at the opening sequence, which is what this picture is taken from, is actually in a real cave on the corner of the river going into Bristol in the southwest of England. And it was natural red sandstone caves eroded by the river, but also then extended and changed to be part of the 19th century shipping and trading kind of thing. So it's a warehouse, really, but it's nonetheless natural roof. They set up these very intense light sources. And that would be, imagine standing in a darkened room and having the head of an extinguished match glowing. That's what I could see. And that's all I could navigate by. So in the sequence when I'm running towards Peter, that's what I can see. And somewhere in what we used to have in the BBC was the Christmas blooper reel. There is a bit of me hitting the roof of the cavern full speed and falling over. There's cries, there's shouts, there's people running, going, "Oh my God, have you broken the suit?" And thankfully, the guys from Millennium were on hand, and they checked the suit out, and the suit was fine, so we were great. It was good. and then they did this goofy thing. They drilled some holes in the lens. But here, the suit is, the depth. So I could see the other side of the room brilliantly. Well, not brilliantly, but just about. Couldn't see my feet, couldn't see you. So in the end, it was dance memory. Rehearse the scene, work out the steps, remember the steps, move like that.
It was all in the it was all in the blocking. You weren't there for like the read-through or anything or were you there for the read-through?
No, we did. In fact, this was kind of the most exciting part. I went down to Cardiff for a read-through before we started any shooting, and they often do this because they want to be, economical with time. So we read 2 episodes at the same time. So everyone was there. Matt Lucas was there. I was actually sat next to Pearl, who I'd never met before, and we read through 2 episodes, and we talked about the voices a little bit. But Stephen Moffat was there. Everyone was there, and I must admit, at the age of what was I then? 55, I suppose. I was just like a little kid at school. Oh my God, they're all here. This is insane. I did my thing, and it was great. It was amazing. It was amazing.
Did the actor who eventually dubbed the Friday dialogue read it better than you, or did you just kill it at that reading and they should have just stuck with you?
No, it was. They were very nice to me. They pointed out right at the beginning, this will be your voice. Because Wayne Yip, who was the director, he actually said, first thing I've got to say to you, I cast you from the audition. So I want your voice, your performance. This is how it's going to go. There's going to be no dubbing, no mucking around. Hats off to the BBC sound guys, because they had boom mics, but they also had a little sort of front mic in here. But that suit was the noisiest thing in the world. I mean, it clicked, it banged, it squeaked. And if you listen to the episode, they've kept it in. So it sounds like a biomechanical thing happening. I mean, really, really impressive. Because I just thought, this soundtrack's going to be useless. But no, it's all there. And the depth of performance is there as well,
And you said that was your first time meeting Pearl Mackie. You'd worked with Peter before.
No, I wish. I mean, like everybody, I remember Peter from Local Hero when I think he must have been 15.
That was my first. Yeah, that was mine as well with Tom Conti.
Do we know that this man won an Oscar with his graduation film? Please, thank you. Yeah, short film Oscar. Yeah. He is brilliant. He's incredibly hardworking, incredibly focused, very generous. Did a lovely thing for me. Came up to me in the suit. There I am. He said, "It's very important you're here. I may not get the chance to talk to you. You may not get the chance to hang out because of the suit and the rest of it. I just want you to know I think it's really important that you're an actor and you're here. Right, let's get on with it." And that was tremendous, because most of the time if you're wearing a suit, people ignore you. When we did the wrap on the sequence in the cavern, okay, everybody, that's a wrap, and the sparks start ripping up the cables as quick as they can. Somebody caught me in the small of the back and knocked me over because I just thing in the way, prop, get out of the way. They didn't know I couldn't see them, I couldn't hear them. But Peter was always aware of who was in there.
And I don't want to stray too far from Doctor Who, but I would probably be lynched if I didn't mention your work in Outlander. I know we have some Outlander fans out there.
Well, we
difficult scenes you're shooting in those sequences with Toby and
they really were. They were very sensitive. Anna Forrester, the director, explained to me that is everyone familiar with what we're talking about?
In Outlander, there's
it's the sequence where Tobias Menzies does the nasty to Sam Heughan several times with great relish.
The end of season 1, or the season 1 or 2, is it?
I want to say it's season 2.
Ends in toward the end of season 2.
But it was a kind of a closed set thing, which was kind of funny because it's action adventure show. You know, they built, again, on the first floor, I don't know why, a dungeon in which we were to do all the fighting. I got to fight with Chris Hemsworth's stunt double. Well, they had this thing is they got the double in, and in the end, the double was too short for me and too big to be Sam, even though Sam's astonishingly well built. Anyway, the three of us fought each other for about 4 days in this thing. And then they went, right, okay, we've got the fight done. Yeah, you're dead. You're in a corner. We've done this. We've done that. We've broken Sam's hand. We've smashed everybody about. Now let's go do this other bit. And they cleared the set, and just the three of us were there, and that was cool. Actually, in the original script, no, I'm not even going to say it. In the original script, there was an even worse act done over my dead body. But somebody showed some sense and cut that out. But, you know, it's a tremendously popular show. And it wasn't until I'd done 5 weeks, I think, in the end, just for that one episode, I realized I haven't spoken on camera in 5 weeks. My camera has no words. My character has no words. I really haven't missed this. Well, like all these other poor swine do all the talking. I got to do, you know. It's back to what we were talking, or I was talking about, object theatre. Animate the face, animate the thing. And sometimes if my job is to stand behind someone and be impassive, you do that in an active sense. Don't let it drop. And I think it worked pretty well, you know.
Outlander's. I didn't realize how, because I knew it was based on a series of novels. I didn't know how big of a following it had. It's like a Lord of the Rings like following, and I didn't know until we had Graham McTavish, who's also a friend. We'd worked together before, so he came down and he did a Long Island convention, and I had no idea that. It was like they were there to talk about Outlander and barely not The Hobbit at all. There were more people who showed up for Outlander than Lord of the Rings. I was like, wow.
I believe there's some other bloke called Fraser in it somewhere.
Fraser, another person who might be here was on Outlander.
No one's ever heard of him.
No, that's great. You got to do that as well. And I really am dying to get into what's out right now. Before we do that, though, there is one credit on your IMDb. I had to do like a double take, actually. Sorry about that. I had to do a double take before I moved on. I was like, wait a minute. And I just seen this film talking about another franchise, if there are any horror fans in the audience. They just recently did a wonderful reboot of Hellraiser. Now, that credit popped up on your on your CV, and I'm like, wait a minute.
I didn't create that.
Were you a Cenobite? And then I realized, what is this credit? Box manager, box handler, as in the box.
I didn't create that credit. Somebody in the production
talk to us about
did.
that, and then we'll.
The first AD on the movie said to me, Richard, we need somebody who knows about props, who knows about puppets, who knows about second unit. I'd like you to do 2 things. I'd like you to courier the versions of the puzzle box as they are finished.
The lament configuration.
There's many of them. They were being made at Pinewood literally as they went. So I spent maybe 3 months flying backwards and forwards to Serbia with the box, or versions of the box. And then they said, and then when we film, what we'd like you to do is to sit in second unit. Not necessarily be a second unit director, but in the same way that Millennium might be in charge of their suits and props, be in charge of the box, help the actors with how you do this, because you need somebody who knows how you film. You're going to hold a thing and show this bit of it and not that bit of it. Sounds simplistic. In the end, because of the tax situation, they wanted to employ a Serbian person to do that, which they did. Fine. So I just got paid for 3 months to fly backwards and forwards to Belgrade. And I would arrive and go, hey, with a big, parcel. What's in the box? The box is in the box. And really what I did was talk to the young people who were doing the suit work as the Cenobites. more extreme than anything I've ever done. Not as heavy as Friday, not as heavy as the Mondo Shi one, but in terms of being glued into a suit for 15 hours with your arms up your back or have no vision whatsoever, or I don't know if anybody's seen it. I can't watch it because that kind of horror makes me unwell. I just don't like it. So I talked with them, and typically at night, before I got on the plane to fly back to England to go get another box, we'd just sit in someone's hotel room or in the lobby or whatever, just chit-chatting and talking about anxiety and panic and pain and disorientation, because no one thinks about that. No one thinks that you do actually need to talk it through. Most of the actors and performers will do it for each other, but that's not always appropriate. It's not. And I think I became uncle to some of them, because they go, well, you've done this stuff. What do you do when it hurts? What do you do when this happens? What do you do when that happens? No, so that was really my job. And they did. They gave me some goofy title, didn't they?
I had to ask.
Yeah, no. Well, I didn't create that. I was so touched when they created that listing for me, just because I did start to feel quite invested in that movie. And yeah, I've never seen it, because I think it would upset me.
It's well done. If you haven't seen the original, you guys, well, good on you. Now, I again cannot wait, and I promise I'll give it up to Q&A, but we do need to talk about a certain date, August 16th, 1947. Tell us about the date, tell us about the film, and then I'm going to present something so the audience will get more of a visual. But go ahead and tell us what August.
So we all know that this week, depending on whether you're in Bangladesh or Pakistan or India, is your Independence Day. It's the date that state was created. Whatever the repercussions of a three-state solution are, but that's the date it was created, and officially they gained independence from Great Britain. And the flags came down, and other flags went up. And then we all know the rest of history happened. Now, the writers of this movie decided, right, we want something that marks this date. How do we do it? Do we tell the story from this side, from that side, from that side? No. They invented, or they recreated, the idea of a hill village, which is a cotton-producing plantation, which in a sort of heart of darkness way has now been controlled by the British military guy who was there, has now turned it into his personal fiefdom. And peculiar as it sounds, he's decided he's going to withhold the knowledge of independence from the people in his village, because he's a despot. And through illiteracy and the lack of newspapers, and obviously there's one telephone in the whole place, he controls the information. So he tries to hold back the tide of independence, which, of course, as we as viewers of the movie know, he's not going to be able to do, but he thinks he can. And then it becomes a siege kind of idea, I suppose. There's an awful lot of blood. And I insisted that everything they asked me to do, or everything that was seen to be done, was documented as having been done in that time. So I don't want any fantastical stuff, any stuff that was invented for prurient or almost pornographic reasons. And they said, no, not quite this. So we lived part of the time in this recreated village in the hills above Vellore in Tamil Nadu. And we rose with the sun, and we filmed all day, and we shot this thing. But you'll be very pleased to know that the put-upon workers of the cotton plantation, specifically the women in the cotton plantation, get to wreak their revenge on this appalling man. And then in the way of Indian cinema, everybody has a song and a dance, which is really very lovely. The music is phenomenal. There's a sequence in which the women of the village are berating the young hero because they feel he's a bad man. It's the most joyous, wonderful thing. The star of the movie is Gautam Kartik. If he isn't a big name in the next couple of years, there's something wrong. He's witty, charming, incredibly talented. And then I realized that all of the other character actors, they're all big stars. They're all huge. The wife of this little old man who I beat into a frothy pulp is like Dame Judi Dench in India. And you look at this woman's face and you go, oh, yes. Their cinema is very often about, you have to do it with your face. And this is a good thing to talk about from what we're talking. Because in the end, even though I learned all my Tamil phonetically, Kalivanakam, I learned it all, everything is dubbed. Everything, even my English, even the other Indian actors, many of whom might not speak Tamil at all. They might speak Telugu or Hindi or, it doesn't matter. They then put it into post-production and they put a voice which they feel will be acceptable to their specific audience. So you can see it in Hindi, you can see it in Tamil, you can see it in Telugu. It's none of our voices. So you have to do it with this.
You'd have to speak it phonetically.
Exactly like a silent movie, because the director, whilst we're filming, has a PA system at least as big as this, and he's shouting at you whilst you're acting. More eyebrow, big hand, violence, more violence, we hate you. And you're trying to keep the lip sync for the lovely people that are going to dub it. And at first you think, this is insane, these people are all mad. Okay, it's another technical challenge. So keep your focus. It's shot beautifully. The cinematography is fantastic. The sequence in the village, I only ever shot during the golden hour. So I've got the setting sun bathing me in this warm glow, and I am the nastiest bastard you're ever going to meet. So this juxtaposition between, and the intense beauty of those hills, and the faces of the people. Oh, do you know what? I fell in love with that place. I actually just cried my eyes out when I left.
This character, Robert, is a real piece of work, as is his son, too, Justin, is also this horrible character. But you have to see the scope of what we're talking about here for yourself. Please run the clip now. It's obviously in a different language, but you'll pretty much see what kind of character we're dealing with here with Richard's character. It will not be in English, but you'll get what's going on. Go ahead and blow it up.
There's the village. There she is. Ah.
There he is.
Understated performance. Very naturalistic.
பொறுத்து நாமெல்லாம் செத்த பிறகு தான் சுதந்திரம் கிடைக்கும் போல.
குத்த தைரியம் இல்லாதவன் கத்தி வச்சிருக்கிற மாதிரி பயந்துட்டே இருக்கிற உங்களுக்கு சுதந்திரம் கிடைச்சா மட்டும் என்னடா ஆக போகுது?
ஒரு வேளை சுதந்திரம் கொடுத்து இந்த நாட்டை விட்டு நம்ம போனாலும் அடுத்த 100 வருஷத்துக்கு நம்ம லாங்குவேஜ் பேசுறவங்களை பார்த்தாலே இவங்க பயப்படுவாங்க. அந்த பயம்தான் 300 வருஷமா நம்ம விதைச்சது.
Great dulcet tone.
That was me. I tried my hardest with that, but no.
It's a big film, my friend, and that just is now out on Amazon Prime. You can stream it as we speak. And
you can also rent it, I think, on YouTube. Yeah.
Oh, on YouTube as well, okay. And hopefully dubbed or subtitled at least, wouldn't it?
Oh no, that's the thing about Indian cinema. Because of the varying languages, it's very usual to have English subtitles, or sometimes have subtitles in another language. So it's very accessible, and they're good at this. They know in post how to make it possible to watch an intense image, but also, read the subtitle. It's a whole other world. It's amazing. I'm hoping, touch wood, to go back and do another one next month in Assam, based in a tea plantation. Maybe it's slightly derivative of the thing you've just seen, but I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah, go out and catch it. Now, we've got some time left to take some questions, and then at the very after that, which Richard's going to introduce you to a small friend of his, and we'd like to have you guys take a photo with that friend before we wrap it up. But let's take some Q&A. Edwin, I saw your hand up. Go for it, buddy.
Yeah, there's a couple things. The first thing is there going to be a version of the film that's in the original voices with English subtitles?
As far as I'm aware, no. And I can't even get access to what we would call dailies, because we shot it as guide track. So, as I say, there'll be other noises, extraneous voices, other things going on. I went back in and dubbed myself for 3 days in the English and the Tamil, so that should exist somewhere. But these guys have moved on. They've made 10 pictures since we made that. You know, they don't want me ringing, oh, excuse me, could I have my footage with my voice on it, please? No? Oh, all right then, okay, fine, yeah. Because it just isn't like that. Now, with digital storage and the depths of time, maybe somebody could do that, but I don't think so. No.
I just wanted to add what you mentioned earlier about John Pertwee and the I went through exactly the same thing because we're all
Similar age, yeah.
and Mark Gatiss on the Planet of Spiders, he said exactly the same thing. So there's several traumatized 40-year-olds out there.
Yeah.
And like Tom Baker, his first season, which is arguably one of the best, if not the best ever. I love watching Monster when it's the Doctor coming
Yeah, that's right.
You know, it took me
That's
a
right.
long time.
Doesn't that sound insane? It took me a whole season to get used to Tom Baker. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's true. And it's funny because I was of an age, and when you start working in the theatre, you don't watch TV anymore. So I then bump into Colin in the theatre, not quite aware of his Doctor, which had already come and gone at that point. You know, we'd even moved on yet again. And you think, oh, bloody hell, no, this man was Doctor Who. And I'm not aware of that. Gosh. That was indeed Norwich Theatre Royal, Babes in the Wood. Colin was a fantastic Sheriff of Nottingham, spectacularly nasty, encouraging all the kids to
You
do
spent
it.
some time in Nottingham. You've played Little John in your career.
Well, as
There's
you
a
say,
surprise.
I was Little John in that Babes in the Wood, and I was Little John in 3 others. We even had a Sheriff of Nottingham when we were in Sheffield. We had Brian Glover, if you know,
American
Attack of the Cybermen,
Werewolf, Alien 3.
Alien 3, you know, the Tetley Tea commercials. Tetley. In the theatre, doing pantomime is like everything that we've talked about tonight, plus 2,500 screaming kids. And I got to tell you, Colin Baker worked that room. He worked that room. I saw Colin, we were talking about this earlier, as Magwitch in Great Expectations. Phenomenal. Brilliant. So that was it. But I'd not seen Colin's Doctor. So I had to go and catch up, which I have done now, thankfully. So we catch up in the end. But thank you for remembering Norwich Theatre Royal. That's really where I started. And I started there as a stagehand when I was at university, and then subsequently got to work with a lot of the people as an actor. Even Kate O'Mara turned up as a guest on, Kate O'Mara turns up as a guest on Robin Hood. Mary Tam turned up as the guest on Robin Hood as our Abbess of Kirklees. And they look at you and go, oh, I know you. Well, do you remember that bit in that Shakespeare play when you took your top off? And somebody was in the wings with a big cloth to cover. Yeah, that was me. But both of them were extraordinarily gracious about it. But yeah, it's a thrill, you know. I'm just a fan. Always have been, always will be. So it's a thrill.
We are. Do I have another question before you hit? Go for it.
Is there any particular role or franchise that you've not been involved in?
Okay, quick joke, not a joke. I did the children's Christmas show at the Lyric in Belfast, right? Brilliant. Sleeping Beauty, played the king, had a great time. Played the bad Englishman again. My only downside of that job was every single person I met, given that I had a beard down here then and hair down there. Hey, Richard, have you been in Game of Thrones? No, I haven't been in Game of Bloody Thrones. I tried everything I could do. They wouldn't see me. I had to work really hard to get into Vikings, and eventually they saw me for Rollo, I think. But by the time we came around to it, I was I was nearly 20 years too old. And the other actor who did play Rod is fantastic, beautiful, also played Robin Hood's brother, I think, actually. So it's like that. It's like things in the stream that go by, and you think, well, maybe I'll come around to that later. You know, I want to play Fagin. Why? I love the musical. It's probably cultural misappropriation of the grossest kind, and therefore, I even tried to talk somebody into letting me play Fagin as a Yorkshireman, because there is this suggestion that Yorkshiremen might be a bit tight with the brass, a bit short arms, long pockets, that sort of thing. You know, well, can't do that anymore either. So yeah, I don't know. Wouldn't mind a few wizards. Did a wizard for Nickelodeon. That was good fun. Wanted to do that more. But really, it's just the next one, you know. And when other people get parts I've gone up for, I usually find myself going, yeah, well, yeah, he's better than me. or I can see why they chose him. So it lets you off the hook, you know?
Well, now, Richard, I think it's time for you to introduce us to an animal named after another animal. Richard, who do we have here today? Let's get a fun photo with him.
Those of you who have seen us before, hello again. Those of you who haven't, this is Mouse. Everyone asks me about Mouse. Now, Mouse is a giraffe, but Mouse also identifies as a bird. I know. Mouse is my traveling companion, my security advisor, aren't you? Yes? Yeah. Very good with customs officials, border guards, and the like. The last time we had trouble getting into Romania, I had a suitcase full of guns. And for some reason, this was a problem. And we were going to be searched until I said, no, Mouse, can you explain? And Mouse told the customs official that whilst these were nominally guns, they were also plastic multicolored water pistols, which was for a shoot we were doing. And at this point, he just looked at Mouse, he looked at the guns, he looked at me and went, go away. So you're very good, aren't you? Yeah. Mouse is thrilled to be here again and enjoys seeing everybody and looks forward to seeing everybody the rest of the weekend.
And I told Richard, let's commemorate this moment with getting a shot of Mouse with all of you behind Mouse. I'll hold it, and you guys all just kind of smile and wave or just go crazy because you're so happy to have Mouse in the room.
Hang on.
Get ready, get in.
No. Like a good boy, I've turned my phone off, haven't I? Yeah, it's going to take a little moment. Come on.
Edwin, is your phone on?
Unless is your phone on?
It is actually, but I'm going to hold it here.
If I hold Mouse,
Edwin,
you get your phone.
All right. Edwin, he's good at this. Here, get behind him.
Oh, beautiful.
Get the photo, or give him
Beautiful.
the phone. There you go. Here we go. All right, everybody.
Now we've got a cameraman as well. That's great.
Okay. Hey. Is that a good framing for Mouse? Hey.
I think so.
All right. Hey, Mouse.
Hey. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right.
Hey, this is Alex Malari Jr., and you are watching Fandom Spotlight. Be sure to hit that like button, share, and subscribe. Your Emperor commands it. Thanks for watching.